Hello, my name is Anthony Conley, and today I'm going to be talking to you about podcasting and education. So, what is a podcast? A podcast is a program as of music or talk made available in digital format for automatic download over the internet. The word podcast itself is a combination of the word iPod and broadcast and has been around since the early 21st century. Why should you use podcasts in an educational environment? So, the short answer to that question is, why not use podcasts in education? Podcasts are extremely popular these days, and they are only going to become more popular as time goes on. As of June 2019, there are over 750,000 podcasts available. In addition to that staggering number, an additional 2,000 podcasts are created every week. Another reason to use podcasts when it comes to education is because we need to get with the times. The world around us is becoming more and more technologically advanced by the minute. Almost everything we use is being improved by technology, and that is only going to continue. I think the educational environment should be just like everything else and use as much technology as possible. With the use of podcasts, the educational setting can show that it too is with the times. Okay, so for the next few slides, I'm going to show you the benefits of using podcasts in education. So the first benefit is listening is better for students. Asking students to read a text or watch a video about a lecture is difficult to do. The reasons why is because you are asking them to give their undivided attention to something for an extended period of time. Podcasts are ideal for students because listening to a podcast can be done while you're doing the activity. For example, listening to a podcast can be done while you're doing laundry, washing the dishes, or cleaning a room. In addition to doing your chores, it would be a good idea to use headphones while you listen to your podcast and doing your chores, because listen to them with headphones on will make it that much better for you. The next benefit of podcasting in education is that podcasts are very flexible. Podcasts are extremely convenient. The portability of podcasts allows students to listen to them as they go. Almost everyone these days has a mobile device, which is excellent for teachers who use podcasts for instruction. The only thing a student has to do is subscribe to a podcast, and the downloads will automatically come to the app as soon as they are released without the student initiating the download. The next benefit of using podcasts in education is that students can create their own content. Another benefit of podcasting in education is that it can allow students to do their own podcasts. Students can create podcasts that allow them to review the instructions for that day, ask questions about an assignment, share ideas about the lesson they are learning, etc. Allowing students to create their own podcast is a huge benefit because it encourages learning, sparks ideas, and keeps them engaged in the teaching and learning process. The next benefit of using podcasts in education is lecture view. Allowing students to review lectures is an additional benefit of podcasting education. For years, students normally review lectures by reading their notes, reading handouts from the teacher, and listening to the teacher talk for 30 minutes or longer. With podcasts, students can listen to lectures as much as they need to. A student can use a lecture review as an additional aid to help them with a specific lesson that they found difficult to understand in class. The next benefit for using podcasts in education is missed class. Podcasting in education is great for students who miss class. By having a podcast, a student who missed class can listen to the instruction they missed out on that day. In addition to the student who missed class, a teacher who missed class can still put out an instruction using the podcast. This is especially beneficial for when a teacher has to sometimes miss multiple weeks at a time. The The next benefit of podcasting education is a class or student can never get left behind. Sometimes a teacher's class can get behind another class for whatever reason. Podcasting in education can prevent this because it allows the class who may be behind instruction to listen to the recordings on the podcast. The next benefit of podcasting education is it helps students with deficiencies. Let's face facts. Some students have more problems learning than other students because of mental and visual impairments. This is where podcasting education comes in handy. A student with an impairment can replay the lessons of the recording as often as they need to. Podcasting education is an amazing aid for students with impairments. Okay, so for the next slide, I'm going to play a video for you that'll show some additional benefits, trying to get it out, for using podcasting in education. So I'm going to play this video for you.
Hello? Hey man, what's up?
Can't you see that it's just rain?
Cool. Sounds good. Alright.
There ain't no need to go outside. But baby, you hardly even know.
The students that we have in our classrooms today are digital natives. They have grown up immersed in technology and prefer receiving information quickly from multiple multimedia sources. How can we as educators provide opportunities for students to be engaged in the learning process and offer them authentic learning experiences?
Hi, my name is Colette Castanelli. Some people call me a technology evangelist. I believe one simple way we can integrate technology in the classroom and engage students in learning is through podcasting. Simply put, a podcast is a collection of individual audio episodes typically recorded and edited on a computer and then uploaded to a web server.
The power of podcasting is in its use of Podcatcher software, which allows users to download episodes from a server to their computers and listen to the recordings or transfer them to a media player.
Remember, you don't need an iPod or a handheld to be part of podcasting. You can listen right from your browser. Today's students are already publishing material on the web, so let's see how you can use podcasting in your classroom and how I can help.
Well, Mr. Churchill, what was your greatest achievement during World War II?
So let's say you're a history teacher and your students are going to conduct interviews of each other as famous people. Maybe your foreign language learners need practice pronouncing this week's vocabulary words. Recording podcasts give your students fun ways to demonstrate their understanding of course material. The equipment you need for podcasting is very simple. First, you will need a basic microphone and a software program that will allow you to edit your recordings. Windows users can use a free program called Audacity, while Mac users should check out GarageBand. Some websites, such as Podomatic, even allow you to record podcasts directly from their websites, but these recordings can't be edited. Once the audio file has been exported as an MP3 file, the next step is to upload the file to a podcast web server, such as Odeo or Podomatic. Students can then subscribe to the podcast made by the class using free programs such as iTunes, iPodder, NetVibes, Podcast Alley, Yahoo Podcasts, or any other RSS aggregator. RSS feeds make it possible for listeners to subscribe to and automatically download new episodes as they become available. Podcasting is much simpler to do than making videos and takes half the time. Students can edit their recordings to make each episode sound professional and even add musical introduction and sound effects for emphasis. It might be a good idea to first listen to other podcasts made by students and educators to get comfortable with how to use Podcatcher software.
Hello from Omaha, Nebraska, home of Radio Willowweb. This podcast features information about
Elementary students from Willowdale in Omaha, Nebraska produce Radio Willowweb, an impressive news show recorded for kids by kids.
Hello, welcome to Speaking of History, a podcast that has a focus on education, technology, and history.
There are so many teachers out there doing great things with podcasting. Check out bookweek.com. It's It's connecting kids in grades 3 through 8 with books that will make them excited about reading. EdTech Live's weekly webcast interview series by Steve Harkinen focuses on K through 12 educational technology. KidCast, Learning and Teaching with Podcasting, has all kinds of great ideas on how you can integrate technology into your curriculum. Really, the possibilities are endless. So I hope you've learned how to use podcasting in your classroom today. If you need any help, please email me at collectcastnelly@gmail.com. I'd be happy to show you how to use podcasting software or even set up your RSS feeds. Please give me a call today.
So that was my presentation on podcast in education, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for viewing.